excited to hear from Dr. Kathleen Durant. She is joining us, I think, virtually today. She is the assistant professor for speech and pathology and audiology at Kent State University, and she works very closely with Dana. Dana, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do you have anything you want to say about Dr. Durant before she kicks it off today?
Yeah, so I first saw Dr. Durant speak in Cleveland last January, and I immediately nabbed her and started talking to her. She has an expertise in bilingualism and assessing bilingual or multilingual students. And as we are approaching this new year with the dyslexia laws and requirements, she has a proposal for our districts that I hope that many of our districts will participate in. It's going to be a free opportunity for all of you to truly identify the needs of our multilingual students in that K-3 group that we have to assess. And when we do the second assessment, she's going to talk about her proposal to partner with some of our districts to truly identify and disaggregate language from disability. So I have some resources. When she's done, I will put in the chat box so that you have those links. And she's going to be at our Title III coordinator meeting at the end of February to talk with our Title III coordinators also. And I've also introduced the idea to our coordinators in December. So if you have any questions, please ask her after her presentation of what her proposal is to partner with the districts. But I'm very excited. Since I saw her in January, I also nabbed her. She's been talking with Ohio TESOL and doing presentations for Ohio TESOL, and she's part of our ELSWD series that Terrell Schwick and I through SST9 have been putting on. And so she will be doing a presentation from 12:30 to 2:30 March 16th on assessing multilingual students. And so I hope that you will share that with your district staff members so that they can participate in that. That will be, of course, no cost. But I'm constantly bending her ear, and so I hope I'm hoping that this will work out for some of our districts, this partnership. So thank you, Dr. Durant.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Durant. I am a speech language pathologist and an assistant professor at Kent State University. Next slide, please. I am part of a group of bilingual speech language pathologists who are working on improving the accuracy of identifying learning disorders in children learning more than one language. Next slide, please. So I want to just start by setting some expectations from what we know. So across the world in education systems where we are educating children who are learning more than one language, we know that about 7% of children have difficulty with learning oral language. And these children are 5 times more likely to then go on and earn a dyslexia diagnosis. But at this stage, bilingual children are likely to be under-identified in the school system. So they're not going to get that early referral to get special education services. But when it comes time to identifying literacy disabilities, bilingual children are likely to be over-identified for services. So we kind of have a mismatch where some children should be receiving services for oral language development earlier, and that other children should be receiving services for literacy later, but it may be more appropriate in the general classroom. So we kind of got to figure out how to tease these groups apart. Next slide, please. So we have here in the United States kind of looked at the tools that are available for us for identifying dyslexia in bilingual children. And we have found that the available tools kind of as a rule over-identify bilingual children. And as Dana has mentioned, I've been having conversation with educators across the state. And at the TESOL meeting, one teacher said, They have started this dyslexia screening process, and 100% of their bilingual learners were identified as at risk for dyslexia. And so we just saw with the last slide that that's not what we expect. We shouldn't expect to see 100% of bilingual children being identified. So there's probably a couple of different things going on. That the screener that the state selected is sensitive to learning opportunities. So children who have typical development but low socioeconomic status are likely to be uh, receiving positive screening results saying that they're at risk for dyslexia. And the second group that is likely to be identified that may not have dyslexia are typically developing bilingual children who are dominant in their first language. The tests that we have are more likely to identify them as having a learning disorder when they are just in the process of shifting to their second language. Then the third group, likely to be inappropriately identified as needing services for dyslexia, are these children who have an oral language learning disorder but not dyslexia. Okay, so we've kind of set the stage here that the state has asked us to identify all children in our schools who are at risk for dyslexia, which is a needed and necessary step, and we're very excited to do it. But we see that we have some challenges, especially when it comes to identifying these bilingual children. And it's like, okay, well, what do we do now? Uh, we have to start in August, and what I'm proposing is that we work together and share resources to help take the group of children who are being identified as at risk and separate them out to identify the children who are most at need for services for dyslexia. So next slide, please. Okay, so taking our Ohio Dyslexia Guidebook as our framework, we are going to do some problem solving together. The main problem here is the state of Ohio has identified a dyslexia screener, but if you were to go and look for a bilingual dyslexia diagnostic assessment, like a test that your school psych or your SLP will give, there's not really a good one on the market. But this isn't because these tools don't exist. It's because publishers are unlikely to have a high profit margin with these bilingual assessments, so often choose not to publish them commercially. But there are tools available. They're in the research literature. And what I'm hoping to do is to bring these tools that are accurate for bilingual children, but you cannot buy off the shelf, to get agreements from the researchers and bring these tools into our school districts in order to use them to accurately identify these three different groups of children. Uh, Children who are low SES and first language dominant, children who may need some help in the oral language and not their literacy, and then children who do need help with their literacy exclusively. These dyslexia um, screening children that we are hoping to identify in the first place. But because these tools that are accurate for bilinguals haven't been published commercially, the information that we have to interpret them, we need to do it in-house. We need to do it in the state of Ohio. And that is something that we are hoping to help you with. This is the problem solving method that the state has suggested to us through the Ohio Dyslexia Guidebook, and that's what we're hoping to use here in this collaboration. Next slide, please. Okay, so to kind of lay it out, what I am proposing here is that to have a diagnostic assessment. So you're going to give the screener that the state of Ohio has identified, and children are going to be found at risk for dyslexia. And then as a school system, we have 6 weeks to give them a tier 2 diagnostic assessment. And that's where I'm hoping to step in and support you in your efforts by bringing in an assessment protocol that combines commercially available tests with researcher developed tools that are accurate for these children, and then confirm or reject their dyslexia at risk status. And then at the school level, take the information for your bilingual children and report them in the framework the state has asked for the local literacy plans. So not only give the children the appropriate assessments, but also at the district level, kind of find out where the children are as a larger group and be able to report that to the state as part of the local literacy plan. The area of collaboration will require identifying the children who are Spanish English bilinguals uh, and providing professional training. So I am willing to come in with bilingual CCC SLPs, so certified bilingual clinicians, to help support your staff by giving direct assessments, like so going in and doing that assessment process, but also providing training for your SLPs and for your school psychologists and those people on your local literacy teams in order to carry this project on, because the universal dyslexia mandate isn't going anywhere. So preparing ourselves to take this proposed assessment and kind of dial it in for your own district and your own students' needs. And the hope is at the end of the first year that we will have um, scores and cut points for your district to identify the children who need these different levels of support, which will result in increased accuracy and placing your bilingual students into regular and special education classrooms. At this point, does anyone have any questions? Okay, next slide, please. I just wanted to show you here with this slide that the part of the dyslexia assessment process that we're focusing on is this tier 2 diagnostic testing, and that the proposal uh, is linked to these standards that the state has set for us, that instead of trying to confirm or deny a diagnostic category, what we're really trying to do is to identify the supports that the children need. And that is that effort of taking the group of children who are going to be identified by the screener and separating them into separate groups, and then using the tools that we have to make recommendations for differentiated teaching, focusing on their unique needs. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish here. Next slide, please. The way we're going to do that is by taking the simple view of reading that the state has adopted and adapting it for bilingual children by identifying these same underlying foundational skills that support reading and writing in English and targeting them in both languages. Next slide, please. Here, I just want to show you a proof of concept showing what this assessment process would look like. It is roughly 2 assessment sessions, 60 minutes each, for the children so that we can identify if the needs are in their first or second language and how to target them. I just wanted to show you that we have already identified the test. We've already spoken with the researcher development teams. We have permission and we have a working plan that if you invite us into the district that we can show you and collaborate on to decide how to adapt this for your needs. But not only that, like the previous presenter said, that this has been an unfunded mandate, and this uh, tier 2 assessment proposal that I'm sharing here, I have also, through the conversations with the Department of Education and through the conversations with Dana, have put together this graphic here and submitted it for a grant proposal to fund this effort for the participating districts, and it was reviewed very highly. So we have a working assessment that satisfies the state requirements through the Ohio Dyslexia Guidebook, and also is found to be meeting the standards of the different test publishers and funding agencies. So I really believe that we're on the right track and can dial it in for your specific district's needs to make sure that the children are getting the appropriate assessment and placement, taking into account this dyslexia and third grade reading guarantee mandates. Next slide, please. Okay, so when I show clinicians the previous slide, these are the areas we're going to assess. The common practical barriers that are brought up are: one, it takes a lot of time to administer tests in both languages, especially when you have to take into account the parents' information about family concerns and language learning opportunities. Two, there's a lack of qualified personnel to interpret bilingual assessments. So there's not a lot of bilingual clinicians out there available for this kind of large scale testing, and that you cannot go to a test publisher and get a manual that's going to help you to administer and interpret these tests accurately. Next slide, please. So the way that Kent State is able to support this dyslexia screening mandate is that we have qualified bilingual SLP personnel here who can assist in giving the test and also teaching your staff how to use these tests accurately. And that what we hope to do is, after going through this first round of testing with your school district, publish the assessment protocol we come up with together as kind of an appendix to the guidebook. So when you pull out that Ohio Dyslexia Guidebook, that you'll have an extra tool set as an appendix there to assist with your TESOL teachers and your bilingual learners. And that we are going to also help create formatted documents for presenting these results to the children, to the parents, and to the school district and the state. We have those documents ready if you would like to make a meeting and talk to us and go over it and see kind of what we're talking about and how that fits into your local literacy plan and how that fits into the planning that you already have in place for the fall. And what we ask for is assistance in contacting the Spanish-speaking families so that we can begin the process of consenting for having this assessment protocol that involves these researcher developed tools, providing testing space for schools, and to help us create the products that are going to fit into your district's unique needs in your local literacy plans in any consortia that you're part of. So really what I'm proposing here is not recreating the wheel, but using the resources and tools that we have together at Kent State and at your local school district to create a sustainable plan to achieve the goals of the Universal Dyslexia Screening Mandate, but to also create a sustainable training program that your staff and your teachers feel comfortable working in this space of making appropriate referrals and special education decision placements for your children who are learning more than one language. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's the information, and I'm going to put it in the chat too. And what I have here is a link to a Google Drive that has laid out the different information I'm talking about and providing the supporting documents. So a rationale explaining how the Universal Dyslexia Screening Mandate is related to the bilingual assessment practices and the scope of the collaboration. I also have things like the IRB for this study, so you can see how the details are laid out and how Kent State and your district can collaborate. It's kind of the recipe, right, for how we're going to move forward in a partnership. So you have all that information available to you if you would like to look it over and then contact us. to move forward with planning on how we can assist you moving into the fall. So right now we are in January, and hopefully if you are interested in us assisting you in assessing your bilingual students, we can over the next couple months come together with a plan unique to your school district and your learners' needs to have in August, when it's time to do the screening, a plan in place to do the follow-up assessment for your children that are found at risk for dyslexia by the screener identified in the state. So that's kind of our timeline and what we're hoping for. Here is the information that you can use as a reference when discussing this, and the contact information for me and how I can be in support of you in accomplishing this goal. Next slide, please. Again, this is my lab at Kent State, and thank you so much for inviting me to come speak to you. I look forward to also following up with you in February and March to move this project forward. Next slide, please. There we go. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your attention. Are there any questions for me at this time? Yeah, it's a lot overall, but I wanted to say that there is support out there for identifying dyslexia in your bilingual students.
Thank you, Dr. Durant. And I just wanted to say that I'm super excited about this. You know, most of our districts have low number of English learners. Spanish is our dominant language in most of the districts, not all of them. But in that K-3 group, we even have smaller pool of students. So we don't all have the resources within each of our districts. And like Dr. Durant said, we don't have certified bilingual SLPs. So this would be an opportunity to get an expert in there to truly pinpoint what the needs are of those students. And as far as the professional development for your school psychs or SLPs, we could even do that collaboratively with whatever districts are participating or choose to participate in this. So we could offer something jointly, so it's not, you know, and this is not for, you know, we have the 18 hours of PD for your instructors and everything. This is different from that. This is more to build sustainability within your districts so that moving forward, we can become more independent and knowledgeable in assessing multilingual students and determining their needs. Another piece that I really liked about this is they're going to have, you know, after these assessments and everything, there will be specific intervention suggestions based on the data from the assessments. So you will know where to pinpoint the needs of the students, whether it's language disability or, you know, oracy. So I'm hoping that we can participate in this project and more accurately meet the needs of our multilingual early, our multilingual students at those early ages. So thank you, Dr. Durant, very much. I'm also going to put a link, just like, because there's a lot of resources in the link that she sent, so it's just a brief overview with a sample of the district partnership if you would choose to do that. And then again, we'll be following up with this discussion at the Title III coordinator meeting. This is not just for consortium districts. This is for all of our Stark County districts, and I know we have some of our friends who are not part of Stark County online to listen to this as well. So this is for all of our districts. So I just wanted to make sure that we knew that. So thank you, Dr. Durant.
Thank you very much.